Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. We have a bit of a different setting today. We have Mr. Mark Morales today from City National Bank. He's also the chair or board for the Insurance Diversity.
Chair of the Insurance Diversity Task Force for the State of California Department of Insurance.
That's a mouthful.
It is. I
And
have to take a breath.
yes, so we tried to actually record this yesterday, but we had a lot of technical issues. So I invited Mark to come over to the house and film here. So welcome, Mark. Thank you so much for coming. And why is this? So we're talking about SB 655, and that is basically a new law that was passed, saying, or an initiative that was passed, that requires that insurance companies that are admitted carriers in the state of California that have over $100 million in revenue have to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion portion to their employees. So could you just explain why that's a huge thing, and why is that so important?
So thanks, Wendy, for having me here today. I'm going to go back a little further, just so that you can understand the context of what's happened with 655. So in 2012, the current insurance commissioner at that time, Dave Jones, had asked the Department of Insurance how much were the insurance companies purchasing from diverse suppliers in California, and nobody knew. And so he created a survey which went out to the insurance companies. And then the following year, legislation was passed requiring insurance companies to report how much they spent with diverse groups, including WBEs, MBEs, LGBTBEs, and DVBEs, so disabled veteran, women, minority, and LGBT businesses. In that year, that was the first time anywhere in the nation that it was required for private companies to report how much they spent with diverse suppliers. And it was basically for insurance companies that took more than $100 million in premiums out of the state of California in the year prior. Now, as fast forward SB 655, and that actually lowered the threshold from 100 million to 75 million and required them to not only report their supplier diversity numbers, but also their governing board diversity. And that's really kind of an exciting thing. And the reason why it's exciting is that the original legislation and then the new legislation in 2 years ago, and then this additional legislation is all about transparency. It's about reporting how much you're purchasing from diverse suppliers in California, but also reporting what your governing board, diversity is as well. Now, many people will say transparency is not enough, but the numbers actually say something different. So in 2012, when the first survey went out, insurance companies were reporting $980 million of spend with diverse suppliers. In the most recent survey, that number is 2.1 billion. And so just by having them report with no mandates, no goals, the number has gone up 105% over time. And let me give you just one specific community that really had the most impact. So in the first survey, LGBT business enterprises received about $156,000 in contract money from the insurance companies. In 2015, it was 5 million. And in the last survey, it was 10.2 million, with another 49 million in signed contracts. Oh, wow. So the impact from this transparency on supplier diversity to California businesses has been immense. And so the newest legislation is really just expanding, how many insurance companies have to report. And, it's very exciting to see. It's also, basically created new legislation on the hospital side. So hospitals now have to report. So you're going to start seeing, a lot of expansion in the hospitals that were not insurance companies. Kaiser, being an insurance company, a hospital, is the number one reporter of spend, over $1 billion with diverse suppliers. But no one else comes close. And I know that the first surveys with the hospitals have come back and the numbers are pretty low. But I'm excited to see that that legislation is in place, that transparency is in place, because I know that if insurance companies can do it, the hospitals will step up and be able to do it as well.
So one of the things, to just give a little background, so I worked in insurance for 20 plus years. It is very much the old boys network. It was very not exclusive, but they kind of kept to their own. They hired their friends, their family friends. Everything was very connected. So this requirement of having people that are diversity, equity, inclusion, LGBTQ, disabled veteran women, that is so important because honestly, by not including this diverse group, you are missing out on so much knowledge, so much information, so much input. Um, to me, that's a huge thing. I'm very excited with what Commissioner Lara has accomplished, what you guys have accomplished. You've been part of the DEI board for
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
In addition to about 12 other things he does on a volunteer basis. So, what do you expect next from these guys? What do they look forward to?
I would look at, the task force itself. So right after the survey was created, the task force was created. And so for when they created the task force, they required somebody from each one of the diverse groups to be a representative on the task force and to engage their communities, so that we could get more of those diverse businesses doing business with insurance companies. And going from 980 million to 2.1 billion over time, that happened because we had people connecting and engaging the communities.
Yep.
And that, I think, that is the best case study for why you should have a diverse board. I mean, to see those kinds of numbers without mandates and without goals, is tremendous. And the only reason that you can see that happening is because you've got people who are right there doing the work. The task force is a working task force. Each one of us has a lot of work to do to engage our communities, to create the summit, to bring insurance companies together with diverse suppliers. So, really, I'm excited about what's going to happen with this. We've already seen that hospitals are hiring supplier diversity managers where they haven't had a position there before. We've seen, some of my friends that have been big in the utility space are now moving into the hospital space. This is some exciting stuff that's going to be happening, and and it needs to happen, right?
Yes, it is overdue.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get change, you're not going to get creativity, you're not going to get the types of things that you get with diverse boards and with diverse suppliers without doing this. We know that insurance companies are primarily older white men. That's what the boards look like, and these changes coming up, I think, are going to be very exciting, for the industry.
Absolutely. And I love the fact you brought up creativity. Joel, did you have anything you want to say? I don't want to interrupt you.
So I guess my question is, what do you anticipate for the pushback to be? Because with change, there's always pushback, especially legislative change.
Yeah, so that's very interesting you would say. In SB 534, when we were, requiring, the insurance companies to try, when we originally, pitched the legislation, it was to be, where they would require to report their governing board. And there was resistance from the insurance industry on that. There was less resistance on reporting the supplier diversity numbers because many of the bigger companies was doing this nationwide. And I think after doing it for 7 or 8 years, they've become comfortable with it and it makes sense for them. But the governing board part has always been this mystery, but it really isn't a mystery. All you have to do is look at the photos and you'll see that they're primarily older white men. And it's the same group. And without any change to those governing boards, you don't see change in the industry.
Yes.
So we see NASDAQ requiring women and disadvantaged communities. Their companies are going to have to start diversifying their boards to be listed on NASDAQ or give a good reason why. We have insurance companies through the insurance legislation. We have hospitals. I think that we're going to see some rapid change here, and I think it's going to be for the good.
I think we're going to see some great change. I mean, not only in the way insurance is managed, how policies are written, how coverage is handled, how claims are handled. I think we're going to see change, and we're due. We're due for some disruption in the insurance industry.
Absolutely. And the current commissioner, Ricardo Lara, he has made quite an impact in a very short period of time.
Yes.
I'm pleased to serve on his task force and as the chair. It was very interesting. My story about the insurance task force was started back in 2013, and they had a slot for LGBT, but they didn't have anybody to fill it. And I came in March of 2015 as the first person to fill that slot. And it was my first, task force. It was my first, giving back to the community in this way, because I was an SBA lender and a business owner, but I'd never done any of this kind of work. And, now today, 6 years later, I'm the longest serving, task force member, outlasting all of the task force members and all of the people at the Insurance Diversity Initiative and the commissioner. So it's kind of, I went from newbie to legacy in 6 years.
And in addition to piling on all of the other volunteer work that you do.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it's led to being the first LGBT person on the Leadership Council for the LA Business Council, and as a representative for LGBT business enterprises to the EDD. So, and I'm one of those people that I'm not just sitting there listening to other people speak. Immediately if I hear something that, I think can be done better or needs to be looked at in a different way, I'm the first to raise my hand and raise my voice.
And you have the background and knowledge to support it as well. You know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. So, you're very bright.
Well, I my claim to fame is having, a great breadth of experience.
Yes.
Most people just have one solid column that they're extremely good at. I actually can speak from different points of view as a business owner, as a lender to small business, as a representative for small business, as a leader of a chamber, and a representative for the industry, for the insurance industry. Nobody has that breadth of experience and is able to speak from the other point of view. And that's really the key here, is not being able to see the other side's point of view. And how do you build value, right?
Yes.
How do you get across to those diverse suppliers, why they should get certified so they can do business with these large companies? How do you get these big companies to understand that by opening up their supply chains and, the impact that they can have to these communities, it's not just the dollars they spend with a diverse supplier. That diverse supplier probably hires more employees in a diverse category, and that impacts the community in a huge way.
Now, this is primarily a California initiative right now, right?
California and New York. So California was number one, first in the nation to lead this, and then New York has followed suit. And I know that Ricardo is talking to other insurance commissioners. I think it would be fantastic if all the states had the same thing in place. And I know that I'm speaking to people, outside the insurance industry about how do we get other industries to report in the same way.
Change is good.
That's going to be, how do I put this? It seems like things normally will start in 2 locations. Normally California leads the way for a lot of things that eventually, I hate using this phrase, but trickle down to other places. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to play out over time, because there will be certain places where they're like, well, don't tell me what to do. We're seeing that right now. But so I think, how do you think this is, what do you think the reality is of this eventually getting to a nationwide level? Because we don't even, I'll leave it at that.
That's good.
Yeah, it's, it remains to be seen. I mean, having California and New York, the 2 largest insurance markets in the nation, it really does lead the way and set the path. The surveys are already set up, right? So it would be easy for an insurance commissioner from another state to just bring this on. They don't have to recreate the wheel. They can start doing it the same way that we've done it. And, if you make it easy and you make sense, for the person that you want to change their behavior and give them some sort of value to be able to do this, it will make it easier, right? If you ask them to create it from scratch, yes, they're going to be highly resistant. But that's not my dog. That's Wendy's dog.
That's my dog.
But if you make it easy for them, and I call it the path to success. So if you go to the California Department of Insurance website, we put resources, out there to help insurance companies, to scrub their data, right? To start a supplier diversity department. We've given this diverse suppliers the, connections to be able to get certified and to work with, each other and the certifying bodies to build capacity so they can do these larger contracts. it's not just enough to require them to report. You want to give them a path to success. And again, the easier you make it for, either the insurer or the large company or the diverse supplier, the more likely they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I love the fact you provided a roadmap. That is extremely important to facilitate change.
And this is applying towards all insurance, whether we're talking about earthquake, we're talking about fire, home, auto, health. I mean, it's boom.
It's admitted carriers only, right?
So it is all insurance. So yes, you are correct. And the threshold for reporting is now 75 million versus 100 million. So, all companies over 100 million, there's around 400 that have to report. By going down to 75, another 115 will have to report. So, that's kind of exciting because, again, more data, more opportunity.
Yes.
But I will tell you that there are companies that report zeros across the board. And, as we put into place a pathway to success for the insurance companies to do this, we're going to be calling on these companies that are reporting zeros. That just tells me that you're not scrubbing your database, because there's no way you're not doing business with at least a woman, a minority, an LGBT veteran or disabled veteran business in your supply chain.
Yes.
So when you report zero, you're not actually reporting accurate numbers. But we want to help them to get to the point of being able to report those accurate numbers.
So what would the repercussions be for the companies that don't follow the guidelines?
So they can get fined for not filing a report. And I can't talk about too much about this, but if you're familiar with the HRC,
HRC stands for what?
Human Rights Council, they have a score that they give to companies in the for the LGBT diversity within their employees and suppliers and all of that. Well, the insurance companies are going to have a kind of a ranking as well, and that is coming down the pike. And when that's fleshed out, you'll be able to research the insurance company that you're doing business with to see where they rank in diversity, and you can vote with your dollars.
Here's a question. So corporations that are maybe headquartered in New York, but they're doing business in California, they still have to file. Are they only filing for their businesses and activities in California or nationwide?
So the report is for California only. So what we are trying to capture in California is how much that New York-based company is spending with California diverse suppliers. Now, at the beginning of the survey, the insurance companies asked us to actually include nationwide numbers. So some of them report nationwide numbers and California numbers. Some of them report nationwide California and New York numbers. The ones that are doing well are wanting to be able to show that they're doing well.
Yes.
Right. And hopefully the other ones will come along.
Yep, they will, because people do compare notes. And if someone says, I am diversity and equity inclusive, this is all my suppliers, people will be drawn to that. Now, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for coming over and dealing with our dogs and dealing with all of this and this setup and everything. I want to end with you talking about your small business that you own and operate.
So, 8 years ago, I bought one of my clients. My client was retiring and my partner worked there. And so we purchased the business that was my business banking client and where my partner worked. It's called Charles Jacobson Inc. And we import Asian antiques and we sell them to interior designers, the movie industry, and we rent to the movie studios. So when we purchased the business, we actually got it certified through the LAGLCC, which is the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. And we went through them and national to get certified as an LGBT business enterprise. And that's exactly when I started all my work in supplier diversity. Yes. So this all started in 2014. And most of my success has been, from 2015 through this year. I'm very proud of what I've been able to do. My goal is to make this world more equal, and my lane is small business and supplier diversity.
Absolutely. And we've also seen his furniture in Hawaii, We took pictures. We knew it was yours.
You sat on a poof.
I sat on a poof.
At the Royal Hawaiian, yes.
Yes, the Royal Hawaiian has his furniture. I mean, this is high-end stuff. This is good stuff. And I've been in the store. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful. So thank you. This has been wonderful. I love what you're doing. I love everything you're working towards. Joel, did you have any parting words for Mark?
No, I think this is a fantastic initiative, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it. I think this is going to be interesting. Very interesting.
Change is good.
Great. Well, every other year, you're going to see new numbers from the insurance companies. This is a report year, so you'll see new numbers next year.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.